Ever wonder what the shoulder patches worn on an Army uniform mean? The patch worn on the left shoulder is the unit the soldier is currently assigned to, and a patch on the right shoulder is that of the unit he or she served in combat with. This patch is important to soldiers and veterans because each of those colorful patches has a story behind it. When you become part of a military unit, you become part of its story, part of the history behind the patch. Hi, I'm Jim Bromley, and this is the Roving Historian channel. This is a short history of the 1st Cavalry Division, nicknamed the 1st Team, during the Second World War. The 1st Cavalry Division was born out of concern for the defense of the Southwest United States. The terrain of the Southwest and the lack of good roads created the need for the continued use of horse-mounted cavalry. The First World War proved that armored vehicles and aircraft would be the weapons of the future, but when the 1st Cavalry Division was activated on April 4th of 1921, these machines were still not reliable enough for the harsh conditions encountered while patrolling the U.S.-Mexico border. The division began to field tanks and motor vehicles in late 1928, but continued to maintain horses while they fielded new equipment through the 1930s. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, and the United States was thrown into World War II, the first wartime mission of the 1st Cavalry Division was to continue surveillance of the Mexican border. The last 1st Cavalry Division horse wasn't retired until 1943. In May 1942, over 1,200 troopers from the 1st Team were assigned as cadre for the creation of the 91st Infantry Division. By the end of that same year, the 1st Armored Car Squadron, the 62nd Armored Field Artillery, and the 161st Engineers had been removed from the division and sent to the European theater. The remainder of the division continued to train with their mix of machines and horses. By 1943, the threat to our southern border had diminished, and the 1st Cavalry Division was alerted for deployment to the Pacific Theater. The remainder of 1943 was spent training in Australia. As a side note of military history, the 1st Cavalry Division had Native American code talkers. Just like the more famous Navajo code talkers who served with the Marine Corps, the radio platoon of the 302nd Reconnaissance Troop recruited Native Americans who used their Sioux language to communicate to other 1st Cav divisional units. The Japanese never broke this code, and in January 1944, the 1st Team moved out to stage in New Guinea for their first combat action. On February 27, 1944, the division sailed from New Guinea to island hop through the Japanese-held Admiralty Islands. The first landing was on February 29th on the island of Los Negros. On March 15th, the 1st Team landed on Manus Island. By May 18th, the Admiralty Islands campaign was officially over. The 1st Cavalry Division had killed over 3,300 Japanese soldiers while suffering only 290 killed in action, 977 wounded, and 4 troopers missing in action. On October 20th, 1944, the 1st Cavalry Division landed on Leyte Island as part of MacArthur's return to the Philippines. The Leyte campaign wrapped up at the end of December, and on January 26, 1945, the 1st Team was on board convoys headed for Luzon to continue the recapture of the Philippines. By February 3rd, elements of the 1st Cavalry won the race to the Philippine capital of Manila. There they had the honor of capturing the Capitol building before retreating Japanese troops could burn it. And also, they rescued 4,000 civilian prisoners being held at an internment camp at Santo Tomas University. The fight for Manila was hard, and the 37th Infantry Division joined the 1st Team on February 5th to take on the Japanese holding the west side of the city. At that time, the Philippine capital had a population of 800,000 residents and was one of the largest in Southeast Asia. It took until March 3rd, 1945 to end organized enemy resistance in Manila. By June 30th, the fighting on Luzon was over and the division began training for its part in the invasion of Japan. But the dropping of the atomic bombs and the subsequent surrender of Japan ended that surely costly mission. On September 5th, 1945, elements of the 1st Cavalry Division moved into Tokyo, the first official movement of troops into the Japanese capital. The 1st Team remained on occupation duty in Japan until the outbreak of the Korean War. Today, the 1st Cavalry Division is home-based at Fort Hood, Texas, and serves as part of the U.S. 3rd Corps. The 1st Team is a combined arms division with 3 of the Army's 10 Armored Brigade combat teams assigned. The 1st Cavalry Division has earned its nickname as America's first team by being the first to accomplish many great things. First into Tokyo, first into North Korea, and first into Vietnam, just to name a few. The division's motto is "Live the Legend," and when a 1st Cavalry trooper is on parade, they proudly march to the tune of an old Irish song that has become synonymous with the cavalry and the exclamation of first team pride, "Gary Owen." If you'd like to read about the 1st Cavalry Division in World War II, here's a book recommendation for you. Rampage, MacArthur, Yamashita, and the Battle of Manila by James M. Scott. While it's not specifically about the 1st Cavalry Division, the 1st team played a significant role in the battle. I recommended this book in a separate video, and we'll have a link to that at the end of this one. An Amazon affiliate link to Rampage by James Scott is in the description below. If you enjoyed this History Behind the Patch video, I hope you'll hit the like button or leave us a comment. Swing by the channel to find more, and definitely subscribe. You won't miss out on future videos. Finally, always rate, review, and share what you enjoy reading. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.